Alright, my name is Michael Easter, and what I'll be showing you guys today is how to use my new calendar system that I've developed for RAs at the University of Tampa. The calendar system is a Photoshop document, which means you will need Photoshop CS4, 5, or 6. It's saved in compatibility mode, but it won't go down to 3. It's been tested in 6 and 5. Allegedly it works in 4. I don't know for sure. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to open up our new calendar system. That's what I called it. I don't know how they're going to get this to you, but it's a fairly substantial file, and you'll see that by the amount of time that it actually took to load. The reason for that being is we have essentially 5 documents in here, and this is where the beauty of this design works. It's all in one place. Your whole calendar is in one place. You don't have to go searching around between week 1, week 2, week 3. And it's all organized into these groups. And these groups have the events, and these groups have the dates. And what's nice about these is what we'll get to later is how none of the text is actually rasterized or converted to pixels. So it can all be changed, the font can be changed, and everything like that. That's also what contributes to its large file size. So what we're going to want to do, what we're going to want to ultimately do to this is we're going to want to change the text, the font of the text, this number, the font of the number. We probably won't need to change the number unless you need to add a 1. This calendar actually starts at 2 because it worked 2 times 5. Gave me the number I needed. Anyways, I can't do math right now. The point of it is that you might need number 1, and I'll show you how to do that later. Otherwise, you have all the pages that you need here, as long as you start on day 2. And the reason that it only has 5 groups for me is because 5 groups is what will fit on your bulletin board with a header of the month. But we might talk about that later. That's really up to you about what you want to do for the month and day indicators. I made them with a little more advanced photoshopping, which I'm not going to be teaching in this video. Anyways, changing the stuff that's actually here. The first thing we're going to want to change is we're probably going to want to change the pumpkin, because we're not using a pumpkin in November. That was for Halloween. What we have in the design components folder is we have the month design, which in this case is the pumpkin, the grid, and the background. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get rid of the pumpkin. So we're just going to take this month design and we're going to drag it in the trash. So we don't want that anymore. I went to Bing and I downloaded a Thanksgiving cornucopia. And what I did was I searched for clip art relating to what I wanted to find. Because the reason I did clip art is because clip art will usually pull up simple images and it'll pull up black and white images or simple color images. And the reason that we want a black and white image is because this is designed to be printed on colored paper and not use any colored ink at all. That way you don't have to go into that office in ResLife to print this. You can just print it at the other printer, or it even takes almost low enough ink that you can print yourself. So yeah, go online, find a picture. I got this nice black and white simple cornucopia, and we're going to pull that into Photoshop. And how you do it on a Mac, the easiest way to do it on a Mac, is download it first. On any operating system, you have to download it to your downloads folder or the project folder, or wherever you're working from. Download it first, because if you try and pull it from the internet straight into Photoshop, it's not going to work. So download it to your hard drive first, click and drag it into Photoshop. Otherwise, if you're on a PC, you can always just hit open and browse for the file. So now we have our cornucopia. And all we're going to do in this is we're going to take our move tool, we're going to click and drag it up. You see the outline. That shows the image, and we're going to drag it up to the new calendar Photoshop, and we're going to just drop it down. And that's going to put it on a new folder inside our design components selection. Now it's not going to let us move that layer because it's in a folder that has locked components. So we're going to pick it up and we're going to drag it just for now outside of the design components. The nice thing about that other layer that we had that we couldn't use is the opacity was already set for it. In this case, we're going to have to do that ourselves. Oops. So that's part of the reason that you want to use this template, is not moving stuff that you don't want to. So let's turn off that group, because we can do that with the design. That's why it's nice. And now we're not accidentally moving that crap around. So we're going to select this, and we're going to put it about in the center of our card, because that's obviously where we want it. Now we can drag rulers down by just clicking on your ruler and pulling it down. If you don't have rulers, it's View, Rulers, and that'll bring up your rulers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to match this up about with the top of that little nub at the edge of the cornucopia. And I'm going to control click out, and that's going to duplicate everything that was on that layer and put it on a new layer, layer 1 copy. And we're going to do that again. Remember, I'm holding Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC. Same thing for both. Then you can tweak how it is with your left, right, up, and down arrow keys. Now that we have the 3 of them on the top, and they're about centered in their cards, we're going to want to merge the layers together. So we're going to click on the top one, Shift, click onto the bottom one, then we're going to right-click, Merge Layers. That's going to put all 3 of these, it's going to rasterize them together and put them on one layer. You see we went from our 3 layers down to our 1 layer. Now we're going to do what we were doing before. We're going to hit Alt, we're going to pull the cornucopia down again. We're going to try and snap it up with where it was. You can see the little arrow next to my cursor that's going horizontally says 0.0000. That means it is lined up perfectly vertically with the ones on the other cards. So now we've got that. We're going to do the same thing we just did. Shift click that, right click, merge layers. The reason we put them all in the same layer is that, number 1, it was easier to pull those 3 down together instead of pulling each down individually. And 2, because we can change the opacity or the fill of them at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the opacity slider, click down here. I'm going to drag that to about 25-30%, somewhere around there. I like 25. The reason that we do this is so that when we have the text overlapping it, it doesn't blend in with the perfect black of the cornucopia. The last thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to pull this into design components just by clicking and dragging it into that folder. Click down on the folder and lock it. Now you've done what I did before. What I did was lock these 2 layers. Now all 3 of them are locked. You're not going to accidentally move your cornucopia, you're not going to accidentally move your grid, and you're not going to accidentally move your background. And this is nice, and another reason why I prefer working in Photoshop than a Word document or something is that you can do that. You don't have to worry about sending things to back and using images and accidentally pulling them around. It gets really frustrating. With this, everything is just incredibly easy to do. Alright, next step we're going to want to do is, now that we've changed our background design, we're going to make one of these groups visible. And we're going to hit this arrow to expand the folder contents. And we can do that again for everything in the folder. Now what we want to do is we want to change the font. I recommend always using the same font for the number and the letters, because let's just face it, it looks better when you do that. So what we're going to do is, it's kind of the same thing when we are merging layers, but in this case we're just going to click on the first event, shift click on the last event. We're going to go into our text tool, and because none of this is rasterized, this isn't an image, it's all what's called vector graphics, we can still change the inputs to it. So in this case, I'm changing the inputs to all 4 of these layers at the same time. To do that, I selected them, I went into T, text tool, and now I can choose a new font. Let's find one that's kind of happy and appropriate for Thanksgiving. Not Japanese. How about this? Jazz text. That's pretty fun. So you can see that it changed all the text to the different text. Without having to manually select one, go in here, hit jazz text, and pull it down, we can just do it all at the same time. So we're going to do the same thing with the dates. Click the first, shift click the last, and we're going to go to our jazz text. There we go. Now we've customized it for another month. The last thing, and the most important thing we're going to want to do, is we're going to want to change the events. To do that, you just go into your events tool. You can hide your dates if you want and your design if you'd like to. If it makes it easier for you. Or you can just leave them up there. It doesn't matter because it's locked. I would hide the dates though, so you're not accidentally moving the dates. What we're going to want to do is click once anywhere with the move tool, just so you don't have any layers selected. I'll hit the text tool, and then you can click into any one of these groups. Now the nice thing about these groups, and part of the beauty of this design, is everything is fixed. This box will not overtype or stretch to fit the type. Instead of running across the screen from this card onto another one or off the page, it will always, this text will wrap around. So obviously this text will wrap around. It's not going to let you overtype. You don't have to be adjusting by hitting enter when you get to the end of a line or any of that stuff. All you got to do is just type, type, type. And now that we're in this box, we can't use our shortcuts. Why? Because if I hit T to go into the text tool again, it types the letter T. If I hit V to go into my select tool, it just types the letter V. So we have to manually come over here and we have to click on the move tool and hit T or select the text tool now. And we can change for another content. Notice you don't have to use this to access this text. So type, type, type. Is that a U? Type, type, type. Wow. Anyways. So then you can finish that, turn back on your dates, and you're done with group 1. You can go to print. And now how this is meant to be printed is it's really simple and really easy. Because you're in all these groups, all you have to do is have the group of the design concepts in whatever group you want to print open. You go File, Print, and you can print it. Now, you don't want to use your own ink, so you can print this in the CAS Lab. CAS Labs have this on it, and it's actually free to print from the CAS Lab. So you don't have to worry about spending your money. Printing from the CAS Lab is always free, and it has Photoshop CS6, this version, installed on all of its computers. So that's where I recommend you print it. But if you want to print from your own computer, if you're using the trial or whatever, you can just go to File, Print. So say you don't want to print this on your own printer. Go to File, Save As, name it, whatever you want, click on the Format, and go down to JPEG, and then save it. Let's just save it to the desktop. Now we have that image saved to the desktop. Here it is. You can see that it only has the layers that were visible up on it. So when you go to save another one, you click off one and click on the other. File, save as, wherever you want to save it, name it, JPEG, save. Now what I usually do is I put the quality at maximum, because quite frankly there's not a lot here, and minimum can cause some blurring. So I like maximum, and I like using baseline optimized. That's not the end of the world if you choose to use standard, but don't use progressive, because progressive will increase the size of your file. So after you save them, you just go to the lab or go to ResLife, and you can print these guys off. And then you're done. Now, like I said, there's not a 1 here. So if you want to put a 1 and your month has 31 dates, and you don't want to just change the 31 to 1, if that's not available, you can create a new group by right-clicking, duplicate group. Hide this one, and you have the entire system for this group in a new group. And that's how you use my simple-to-use Photoshop calendar system. If you have any questions on how to use it, you can contact me at michael.easter@spartans.ut.edu, or you can use my Facebook page, which I also ask you to like, at facebook.com/michaeleasterartist. That's all I have to show you about my easy-to-use Photoshop calendar system. Alright, have a nice day.